Welcome back to the Media and Society. I'm your host, Anthony Mitchell, and we're here having a special conversation with author and entrepreneur, Mr. Allie Braswell. Hey, Allie, let's jump back in and discuss the importance of authenticity and consistency in relationships. I think that's an important area that a lot of people just don't really understand. You know, being up here in the land of DC, some things are very superficial with a lot of people, but I think there is some genuineness, and I think you can find people here that are very genuine. You know, talk about that a little bit.
Well, when you talk about authenticity, it really is, what is your character? What is your reputation? And does your character match your actions? And I think that's what's so critical about them being lasting and impactful relationships. When I talk about that in Engage, Invest, Grow, is that it is the authenticity. It's truly measuring up to the character that you show and then being that person when you're not in front of the camera or you're not being seen. I often like to think about it as when I was a young Marine, they used to tell us, you know, if someone accused you of being a Marine, would there be enough evidence to convict you?
Hmm.
And really, that's really where I'm coming from. I try to live that life that if I pretend to be, and I want to say portend to be somebody that of character, of good judgment and good steward of relationships, then I must manage that throughout. And that means I have to go the extra mile to maintain the integrity that also helps to prove the authenticity. And then really trying to live to be that person. I'm human and I will miss here and there, but I want to try to at least 95% of the time be on cue. And one of the great ways to do that is honesty, truly being who you are, not pretending to be someone else. I think in the world of social media, there are so many people that are faking it till they make it. I'd rather be with people who are making it and truly being themselves and helping me to grow in myself and then allowing me to help pour into them. When we do that and we authentically do it, and authenticity here meaning when we do it with no intent on a return on investment, it sometimes even goes further and allows you to grow. I've had that benefit with Jacob Stewart at the Chamber. When I came in as a young engineer from Disney overrunning a technical shop and got involved with community, by being able to spend time with Jacob Stewart and learn about caring about people, I really found what my passion was, which was people. Now you may say that how can the geek who can speak, who used to call himself that, really connect to people? I was technology, but what I found was by working with others that I really enjoyed seeing people move forward. And that's been the crux of my career.
Yep. Very true. Very true. So when you say this, what are some obstacles that people face when maintaining relationships, and then also how can they address them? These obstacles.
I think one of the obstacles that comes in is truly what we just talked about is being authentic and real. And then being able to seriously want to go out there and make a difference in the world through your relationships. When I think about how successful people build relationships, they're timely, they have integrity, and they really want to do good. And, when I think about John Maxwell and him talking about high road leaders, these are people who choose the high road all the time, not some of the time. They're not manipulating people. And when you see that, or you see manipulation going on, it's calling it out and correcting it. Even if it's in yourself, it's being able to objectively look at that and say, am I really trying to make this a mutually rewarding relationship, or am I just in it to win it for me? When you do that and you have that check and balance, that's when relationships continue. So, for example, Anthony, we've been friends for years. We were church members together. But over the years, no matter the distance, we've been able to maintain that relationship. Where it goes awry is when people take advantage or they make withdrawals before they make deposits into the relationship. Deposits are just reaching out, staying in touch. Deposits are being able to open a door for someone else without expecting a door to be open for you.
Exactly.
Deposits are building up your relationship equity before you ever start making an ask. And when you do that, that actually adds credibility to the ask when you make it. For example, when I went into the Urban League, I went in and we had to raise money in order to keep the doors open and to be able to meet our needs. I was able to rely on corporate relationships off of good character, good reputation to bring people to the table to help me. And that continues to this day.
Yep.
Most recently, I helped my fraternity chapter in Orlando raise over $250,000 in a matter of 3 years by leveraging those relationships, being a good steward of the relationship, and then making sure that we return the investment that we promised and that we show the impact that we're going to make.
Hmm.
When you put those combinations together, that's when people really see the benefit of being engaged with you. That's when they will learn more about you, partner with you, open doors for you through sponsorship, and then own the relationship through the longevity of
Yeah, yeah. And what fraternity is that?
it. Okay, I'll behave, but it is the Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated, the only fraternity that's out here in the blue and white.
Okay, okay. I figured you wanted to give them a shout out, you know. No, that's awesome, man. So the other thing is, how about I think in every relationship, there's always going to be some times where there's ebbs and flows and ups and downs for the most part. But in mentorship and mentee relationships, and you can talk about this from the perspective also the complexity of having a male or female, blah blah blah, either the mentee mentor. How does the conflict and misunderstanding in the long term? How do you handle that the conflicts in those relationships?
Well, I think up front, you set the objectives of the relationship and you maintain the boundaries professionally of the relationship. And when you do that, you want to hear from the mentee. What are you hoping to gain from this engagement? How can I help you? And that's also for the mentor to be able to make sure they're coming with genuine interest to help grow that person into the incredible professional they can be.
Hmm.
Whether that be in a, for instance, we are the only constitutionally bound fraternity or sorority with Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. So I get reached out to a lot by my sorors, my sisters, that say, hey, we want to learn from you. So when I enter those relationships, I enter it with a sense of understanding up front of what are we working towards and helping each other do. When I do that, we clearly lay the groundwork and the framework for how we're going to work together, how we're going to gain each other's respect and maintain that respect throughout the relationship. And then we clearly lay out what some of the deliverables are or the objectives are in putting that relationship together. Most recently, I had a sister from Zeta Phi Beta reach out and say, I want to pick your brain about how you work with youth. So we'll clearly come together with an understanding of we're coming together to help her grow in her understanding.
Hmm.
We'll set parameters when we will meet and how we will meet so that it is respectful of both parties engaged in it. And then we'll have deliverables and follow ups that'll help make sure that I'm adding value to the relationship and that she's receiving and adding value back. And then when you do that, that's when things really build. Can you see that actually being a firm foundation to build a solid relationship on that as she grows in her work around youth development, and I'm leveraging my knowledge of youth development, but also using my Rolodex of people who may be able to help her achieve the objective she's trying to achieve, it then becomes really beneficial. And that's when everybody wins.
Thank you for continuing to watch or listen to the Media and Society. Tonight's guest is Mr. Allie Braswell, and he's here talking about his book, Engage, Invest, and Grow. Very important book, a lot of good tools for successful people, helping them build bonds and lasting influence and impact. Allie, let's talk about technology. It's had a major effect on most relationships to the point where people don't even want to go out to meet people anymore a lot of the times. Although that still seems to be the number one way that deals get done. You eventually meet somebody in person. But let's talk about technology. We can't avoid it. It is a significant part of maintaining relationships. But let's talk about and let's go through some of the advantages and disadvantages. What have you run into when it comes to tech?
Well, let's talk about advantages, meaning I can talk to anybody anywhere in the world and get a FaceTime call from a friend sitting there watching Noah Lyles actually run his race in Paris, right? Uh, Technology helps to enable connectivity, and through connectivity, we stay engaged. Where we run into challenge with technology is we become so dependent upon it, we forget how to build relationships one on one or in person. COVID-19 did us a great service in showing that we can work remotely, but I think it also became a detractor in building true relationships because I can turn you on and turn you off,
Hmm.
and I can also pretend to be engaged, but just by closing off my screen, I can really disconnect. So I think what we have to do is get back to the art of really learning how to build relationships because sometimes we have to read the body language to see the authenticity.
Mm.
I can say I'm on board with you, but if my body language is saying I'm not, then you truly know the difference.
Hmm.
And I think that's where we have an opportunity with technology is to use it wisely. We also have to be very good stewards of social media because social media, a lot of times when people go to Facebook, you think the world is great every day, 24/7, 365. But I try to put some reality in my posts and let people know there are good days, there are some tough days, but we're going to make it through it together. And I
Absolutely.
think you can use technology as an enabler to keep relationships going and flowing. But I think you also have the responsibility to use it wisely. I remember Faith Popcorn writing about it in '86 when she wrote her book about cocooning, that we were moving to where we would only raise the garage door and come out to get in the car and go somewhere,
Hmm.
and that we would move away from shopping in stores to shopping online. While she was a great prognosticator of what was coming, I think we have an opportunity and a responsibility to still engage with human beings, do it responsibly.
Hmm.
Because we as human beings, we need that touch. We need that interaction and that engagement that helps to really see that empathy is real, compassion is true, and that we really do want to put humanity back into being human. That's what I'm on a goal to do, Anthony, with all my books and my work is to touch 5 million people across this world and help to put more humanity back into being human, where we care about each other, where we value each other, and where we have more in common than we have apart.
And to your point and what we're talking about here, was it where we're at now? You have a lot of society that has become bullies online. They feel more free and outspoken online without having to be in person. So, what's the right balance of online communication versus in person interactions? What is the right balance?
Well, I think you use technology to be an enabler to take the conversation further and to keep it connected. But I think you truly, through conferences, through networking, through coming together, you truly get a chance to know a person and really see who they are. I think we have a responsibility in social media and in technology is to use it as a tool of engagement rather than as a tool to batter or to abuse it in the terms of hurting someone's feelings or to come out with bullying. It's a shame that we have terms like cyberbullying or cyber stalking. The key thing though is I think if you use it responsibly, social media is an enabler. We are able to tell stories and connect. The beauty of Disney is all about being able to tell the story. And that's what it really was about. When Walt created Disneyland, he wanted to create an environment where a father and his children could come together on a Sunday and have a good time together, tell stories and then interact, have some fun. I
Yeah,
think we got to get back to that
that
type
was that
of,
was
it may
before the.
sound really simple, but we had to get back to that type of humanity and valuing people. And that's one of the reasons why I do what I do and why I wrote Engage, Invest, Grow. Because Engage, Invest, Grow can be about your personal relationship,
Hmm.
how to improve those, but it's also about really, for me, how to build great relationships in the corporate environment that then lead to greater efficiency and effectiveness in caring about one another. And when you do that, you grow a company. Last thing I'll give you on technology, there was a CEO that uh, forbid emails on Fridays and encourages people to either pick up the phone or go visit with their colleagues. Someone pushed back on him and said, well, I can't. My colleague's on the West Coast. He says, no, your colleague's on the third floor.
Hmm.
You just never, ever have reached out. You thought because it said West Coast that they were on the West Coast was their territory, but they're really on the third floor. When they stopped doing that, they increased their the retention rates,
Hmm.
people cared about each other. That's when you truly build an unbelievable culture where people belong and feel a part of it and feel brought together. Still my work is creating a common ground where we can all belong and we all feel important. And that's one of the things I think is the true beneficiary of building great relationships is that everybody has a sense of belonging and a sense of purpose
Hmm.
and they feel that others respect that and appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, well said. Let me ask you this. And one thing I wanted to add, you were talking about Disney. That was before the $180 a person ticket. That's back when he wanted them to get together, the families. Now it's too expensive. Disney, Universal, all of them, they just cost a lot.
I will say, one of the projects I got to work on was making it affordable monthly. So, you can't pay that fee monthly and have an annual ticket, because what I wanted to do, I said, the lost leader is getting them in the park. So let's create a path. And I got to work with those people who put together the way to make it affordable, Anthony. So having been there just recently, it still is one of the great, most magical places on earth that allows you to separate from the realities of the world and take a moment. So
Yeah,
I know that 180 is stiff, but you know, still make that investment of time and resources.
absolutely. Yeah, I totally agree. So let's dig a little more into your book. I'm going to put it up again because I want people to really understand this book. Hey, where's my producer? Okay, he's putting it on screen. Engage, invest, and grow. Now, the importance, because we want to dig into this book. You talk about moving from mentorship to partnership. I found that to be very powerful. Matter of fact, I actually implement that with a young woman that I actually mentor. And I do believe in this wholeheartedly. I think this approach is very smart. But can you talk about this and give the audience some understanding of moving from mentorship to partnership?
Yes, a mentorship, it sometimes is looked as though that there's a mentee who is the target of the mentoring, and then a mentor who is giving their knowledge and sharing their experience. But when it moves into partnerships, it becomes a reciprocal relationship where there's give and take on both sides. Because guess what? I'm entering into a new mentorship right now where a young man reached out and said, I want to learn from you about your speaking. I want to learn from you about what you're doing. But then I went and did some research on him, Anthony. He has over 200,000 followers
Mm,
and he's a social media influencer, right? So I can teach him what I know, but I can also open my mindset to learn from him things I don't know.
exactly.
And when you do that, that strengthens it and moves it from mentorship to partnership. I'm giving of myself, they're giving of themselves. And yeah, I tell you what, I love it. It keeps me young. My wife often tells me that I'm young, energetic, and active at every age, and I make 62 look pretty daggone good.
There you go.
But it helps keep me fluid when I'm able to speak to younger people who can help me make sure I'm up with the trends and the technology. And it helps me to be able to give back to them while they're giving to me. When you do that, that we have shared goals, we have shared ideas, we have shared outcomes. And that's where it really truly moves from being mentorship, where it's feeding and pouring out with a fire hose, to really giving back and forth, give and take, and being able to help enhance both of us and grow as a partner.
Yeah, 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 definitely. And let's go back a little bit because we kind of hinted around and talked about this a little earlier on in our discussion. But networking is obviously a vital tool that everyone has to use. Can you talk a little bit about that and really how professionals can build and sustain their networks effectively through networking?
Okay, so I think one of the greatest tools that was out there technology wise was LinkedIn.
Hmm.
And then what people would do is they would go to mixers or chamber events or conferences, and the whole purpose was to meet people. The key thing is you can meet someone, but that is only the relationship catalyst. When you take that catalyst and turn it into an outreach, where you had that first cup of coffee, and it's not to ask for a sale, but it's really to say, how do I get to know you better? Tell me about you. Let me learn about your family. Networking is a powerful tool when used right. It
Hmm.
has to be timely. That's why I suggested follow up with the business cards from 24 to 48 hours. Funny story about me is I transitioned with a box of business cards from Disney to independent to nonprofit to hospital. And I realized I hadn't called one person in that box of cards. When I got to a point of really beginning to say, I got to do something with this, this is valuable, it really was my treasure.
Hmm.
And when I started setting the rules that within 24 to 48 hours, I'm going to follow up with somebody, The beauty of AI and technology now is you can go onto LinkedIn, find Anthony Mitchell and say, hey, I'm going to send him a message. And
Yep.
they'll even prompt you with the message to send. I've suggested you edit it and make it more personal.
Absolutely.
But technology has helped you to be able to use networking. Networking then is taking it to the next step and following the ship's framework is then spending some time on scholarship, really learning about that person. What are they looking for? How can you help them? What in your portfolio of resources can you open and help them achieve before you ask something of them?
Hmm.
And then when you find your shared goals and your shared similarities, that's when you really move into a sense of partnership that's meaningful and rewarding. And that's when you have the opportunity to do sponsorship. For example, it may be, I'm looking for a job. I remember a young man coming to me that was out in technology world and said, Allie, I'm looking to change careers. I'm looking for an opportunity. And I just happened to be able to open the door and hire him in to Walt Disney's technical services division,
Hmm.
where he came in and did well until he decided to move to DC and take on this incredible job up there. You might know him. His name's Anthony Mitchell.
This is true. I'm sitting there thinking, I was like, hey, I know this guy.
Hey, see, you know what? Friends that become partners that know each other's needs and desires and where they want to go. And then you look in your Rolodex of resources and say, how can I help?
That's true. That's true.
And then you watch them as they grow, help others. And then they often reach back and say, hey, come on my show and talk about your new book.
Yeah.
Can you see that cycle there? It's complete.
Yep.
And it continues to grow and strengthen. And now we're in that phase of the ship's framework, which is called ownership.
Yeah.
We have a shared ownership in each other's success and a desire to see everybody win.
Mm-hmm. Let's keep talking about your book here. What are some key takeaways that really, when a person sits down, reads your book, first of all, talk about who is the audience of this book? Who are you writing this book for? And then talk about what are some key takeaways that our listeners, and that a new reader of your book can take away from it.
Well, I hope when people read Engage, Invest, Grow, they'll see it as a tool and a blueprint for building great relationships, that they'll leverage the 5 rules of engagement when you're defining relationships that are igniting the relationship catalyst. That could be the networking event. That could be the next opportunity that you meet somebody in a meeting and you say, hey, I want to connect with you, learn more about you. It's also having the other element of checking your attitude to make sure that you have the right attitude that people want to approach you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you look like you're mad or like the Grinch all the time, it makes it hard to approach. But if you walk into a room with an attitude, relax, and be able to give of yourself, you know, people are more apt to approach you. The next one is having a high aptitude, a desire to learn and learn more about yourself and learn about others. So what I hope people will read this book is look and say, hey, I can apply these to my real life. You know, I had a friend who read the book who was working at a Toyota dealership in Orlando. And I was really moved that he called me and he had the book highlighted and he had it sticky noted and he had it tabbed. And he says, Allie, I'm going to go apply these. He worked in a dealership for over 25 years, but in the last 10 years had never engaged with his web designers or the technology side of the company. He ran one part of the business. They ran the dealership side, selling the cars. He ran the parts. And what he said was, I have access to all of the clients that they want to talk to, but are they talking to each other? What he got from reading the book was, he said he learned that maybe I need to use a relationship catalyst, which is maybe I just need to reach out and touch these people. He went and had coffee, bought donuts, and don't you know, he made 5 new friends upstairs on the 2nd floor that now helps him meet all of his technology needs. So with that, that's a great example of calculate and establish the relationship dividends and figure out how to grow. I think one of the other parts is when you go over to the 7 key questions to consider in determining if a relationship is aligned with your values. You know, I'll just hit on a couple of them.
Yep.
Does the mission and objective and the culture of the individual or company that you're talking to reflect your core values? Ask yourself those questions as you begin to put time, talent, and treasure into different relationships. Is there a clearly identifiable desired outcome from that relationship? Are you only looking at it for transactional based to do a sale? Are you really looking at it from what can I get out of it and how do I build?
Hmm.
I think one of the other things when you get over into scholarship and you learn how to make valuable deposits into a relationship, when I talk about seeking to serve and being the bridge, oftentimes those keys can help you navigate through your relationships and your engagement with others. Follow up with genuine concern and show up and celebrate others. I think one of the greatest things we can do is show up to other people's success, celebrate them, and let them know that we really care.
Absolutely.
Trust me, people will remember how you made them feel
Hmm.
more than anything that you've ever said about them. And I think those are some of the keys that I hope when people read Engage, Invest, Grow, that they'll find the art of cultivating and building relationships real, that this little blue book will help be a guide to help them do that and achieve all kinds of things by building powerful and impactful relationships that will last a lifetime.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, as we begin to close out, I want to give you the last word and give a final piece of advice that you want to give our audience on maintaining relationships in their personal and professional lives. Allie, the floor is yours.
What I would encourage you to do is to look to value people. When we value people and we give back to them and let them know that we appreciate them, they will give of themselves. I think everybody on earth that's human is looking at the Olympics right now. And you're seeing incredible relationships being built in the world of competition. Competitors who are out after the same goal and achievement are actually hugging each other and looking forward to embracing each other.
Hmm.
I looked at the gymnastics event and watched the hugs. I watched the track and field and I see the hugs and the endearment, the fist bumps. When we really have an opportunity, we're using this Olympics to be a relationship catalyst. They're going to use this and grow together no matter the challenge that they run into, no matter the obstacles that they face in life. You never know when one of these relationships built in Paris during a competition may come back. Leverage the Olympians as an example of what can be done, what can be achieved, even in competitive environments, whether it be in the workplace, it be personally, or just be an engagement around your community. I hope you will learn from Engage, Invest, Grow how to take it and use it for the power that it generates and that it purposely gives back to each and every single one of us. It's been a pleasure to join you, Anthony, and to help make a difference. And I look forward to continued engagement in our relationship. Our relationship, which actually started well over 14 years ago.
Yep. Yep. This is true. Thank you so much, Allie, for sharing your insights and experiences with us tonight. It's been an absolute pleasure, as always. To the audience, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of The Media and Society. We hope you enjoyed our conversation with entrepreneur, author, and civil rights leader, Allie Braswell Jr. Stay tuned for more engaging discussions. Until next time, take care, keep investing in those important relationships with this week's book, Engage, Invest, and Grow. Have a good one.